Welcome to Activations with JJ, Ascension Diaries, Part 8. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of my Ascension Diary series. So far, this is my 8th one. I cannot believe I've already done that many, and I definitely have lots of content. Been going through lots of different things. I don't know about you, but things are just coming fast and furious right now. And so this particular episode, I plan on giving you some real-time information about what's happening to me. I'm not necessarily going to talk to you about the past. I'm going to talk to you about things I've experienced in just the last week. But before I do that, I do want to remind you that I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel and also like the video if you're listening on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, feel free to leave a review and go ahead and rate this podcast because more people will find me if you do that. Lastly, I do want to make sure I put in a plug. I'm doing some gatherings over Zoom in September. So basically starting in September, I'm planning on doing some live Zoom meetings, different channelings, like question and answers, and also things regarding like how to connect to your star family and how to do light language, all of those fun things. I'm finally starting to gather, and I feel like it's really important for us to gather, whether it be in small groups or large groups. And this is one way that I am listening to my guides and following my intuition is by creating these Zoom gatherings. So if you check out the comment section of the video, you can see that there's a link to a form. And when you fill that out, I will give you more information about these upcoming gatherings. So make sure you take a quick moment to do that. Plus, it's a great time and a place in the gatherings to be able to talk about all these woo-woo things that you probably can't talk about with all of the rest of your friends because they might think you're a little bit crazy. I've been there, believe me, I know. Sometimes it feels really alone. But I just wanted to start off by kind of giving you a little bit of a lowdown on what this last couple of weeks have looked like for me personally, and just tell you a few little stories, some things that have happened. I feel like I need to tell this story, but I wonder if I've already told it, but even if I haven't, for whatever reason, my mind is bringing it up, so I'm going to tell it. The first one is related to something I've talked about in a previous episode, and that has to do with timeline loops. I've definitely still been feeling some of this warped time. That's the best way for me to put it. I feel like I've been in sometimes a timeline loop. The story that I want to tell you is completely related to that. A few weeks ago, I went to a town, out of town. Basically, I went out of town, and I actually took a road trip, so I was quite a bit away from my regular hometown. And I went into a grocery store to pick something up. When I walked in, I saw this person, and they were dressed a little bit oddly, kind of like in pajamas. And it was just a grown man dressed in pajamas. And he just caught my attention. And then at that same time, there was a person working at this grocery store who, I think he was interacting with that man, but they were in the same area of the store. So for whatever reason, my mind remembered them and caught on to them. And then I went about my business. I bought the things I needed to buy, and then I left the store. Well, it came to be that I needed to go to that store again during the evening. So this was way early in the morning that I went the first time. The second time, it was really late at night. But I did go there, and the weirdest thing happened. I saw this same guy with the same pajama pants, and then the exact same worker interacting in the same way, and immediately knew I was in some kind of a time loop. Now, the strange thing for me because I had gone out of town and I had gone on a road trip, I have told you guys this before, but when you go that far away, it's very easy for you to have a timeline shift. And that's exactly what I feel like happened. 1, I think I had a timeline shift. 2, I think there was kind of a loop stuck there. When I go to this particular place, it's actually somewhere I've lived before in the past. I always have this feeling like that place is a stuck energy. when I go there now, because I lived there for a long time and I didn't really notice it, but when I go there now, I just feel like it's very heavy and stuck. And that really came out to me when I saw this loop. I was like, wow. And I actually don't do it in a judgmental way, because I truly believe like an area like that, maybe those people chose to be in that. They want to be in that kind of energy, and that's fine. But it I guess what it really did for me was help me to see like the difference from where I was to where I am now, how I really have shifted timelines. And this might start happening to you more and more. You may actually decrease your communication with certain people that even live close by you. And I've had that happen to me lately, even family members and friends that usually I'm in contact with a lot. Part of this could be because of COVID, but I feel like I'm just not interacting, and I don't, every time I think, oh, I should call them, or it's like, no, you don't need to. And I feel like I'm needing to almost like isolate or be really selective about who I'm around right now, because my vibration is in flux and it's in shift, in transition. That's a better word, in transition. And so I'm needing to hold my energy and decrease my interactions with certain people. So that's a really fascinating thing that happened to me when I went out of town. And again, just the observations that followed that particular incident. Most of you know that my process as far as kind of gating information from my guides or channeling information just like in a moment to moment basis, not when I formally sit down to channel the podcast, but just when I'm living kind of half in that spirit realm and half here on the planet. It's very fluid, and I'm always looking for lessons and reasons for things. I think that's just how my brain works. You don't necessarily have to do that. That's just what I always do. I'll always observe something and I'm really curious. And so I'll ask, I'll be like, why did that happen? What does that mean? And usually they're totally fine to answer. This is a law of the universe to free will. You know, if you ask for it, ask and you shall receive. It's right there in the Bible. That's a law of the universe. It's not just, something that this religion had. It's really a thing to ask. So for those of you who are experiencing kind of funky things like my story, and you're kind of wondering like, what the heck is going on? Is this part of, the ascension, or part of the shift, or part of the new earth timelines? I totally encourage you to start to use your intuition and start to use your clairaudience or your clairvoyance, whichever of your clairs you're developing, and tap into your guides or your higher self, and just be curious and just ask. Whenever I'm in my one-on-one sessions with people, the format usually goes like this. If they're connecting with their star family will come through. I'll connect with them, and then I'll help them sort of feel that connection and activation. And then without fail, every single time, they're kind of in awe that they just found out about their star family, or that it's not that they didn't know they were there subconsciously. They just didn't know they were there consciously. They always say, oh, I knew that there was something, or I felt them before, but I didn't know what it was. Anyhow, every time I bring them through, their star family always stays with me and says, do they have any questions? They let them ask questions. And the person, the person that's in my session is always like, well, I don't know. Can I, like how detailed can I get? And they've never made fun of a question ever, ever, ever. And so I'll channel their star family and they'll ask their star family questions. And it's so amazing. But it just helped me realize how important it is for us to step into our power and to pursue our knowledge of our own free will and of choice, right? So they don't force knowledge upon us. They always wait for us to meet them halfway. And that's exactly how I've noticed this ascension time going for me. Lots of people are going through this and they're completely oblivious to it. You may have been like that, like even just a few months ago. Maybe you just had a big, huge shift in your consciousness. And now you're like, wow, I never noticed this before, but it was there, but I didn't notice it. It's just like that for all of us. But when you start having your eyes opened to things, that's when I feel you start getting curious. So whether or not you are automatic writing, maybe you're writing questions down and your guides are answering them, or maybe you're just thinking about it in a meditation, I totally encourage you to ask lots of questions. This isn't the first time I've mentioned this in the Ascension Diaries either. I think I mentioned it literally in episode 7, part 7 of the Ascension Diaries series. And I feel like I need to say it again. Just be in a state of wonder, be in a state of curiosity, because it's really, really important. Okay, I'm going to move on to some energetic observations I've had just based on what's going on in the planet. One of them has to do with our solar plexus. I feel very connected to the collective. I feel like a lot of times what I'm processing is what the collective is processing. That's one of my roles here, is to, I don't want to say take on, but really experience and help activate and move through things on behalf of the collective, maybe that's another word for it. And the solar plexus, wow, it's been really getting my attention lately. One of the first things I noticed was I was laying down to go to bed, and every night I would just place my hands on my solar plexus. And that's not normally like my sleeping position per se. I normally like sleep on my side, and I was just like, nope, I would lay down and I would meditate. And a lot of times I'm a yoga teacher, so a lot of times I teach people like put one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly, and a lot of times I'll put a hand on my heart. But I was going straight to my solar plexus. It was almost like my subconscious and my hands just knew, like, you are really activating that area and you need to do some healing or some work on that area. And so place your hands there. Your hands have these auxiliary chakras, very powerful chakras in them. And so I don't know if you knew that, but your hands have a lot of properties of moving energy and doing things with energy. So I knew that that was happening. Now, did I consciously, in my conscious mind, energy work on my solar plexus? No. And that's a really good lesson for you, because I have a lot of people who are still trying to go through their process in their mind, with their mind, right? Even with their 3D mind. We get really pulled back into that, and I think it's just out of habit. I was reading a quote on the Cryon social media page for Cryon Lee Carroll, and in a nutshell, basically what it said was, those of you who have been healers and have been healers for a long time, basically what it said was, you need to open up your eyes to new ways of healing, because it's going to be faster and better as we shift into this time. So basically stop doing the things that you've always done, because there's way better ways to do it. And I thought that was so fascinating, and it really relates to what I was saying about how don't overthink it. All I did was put my hands on my solar plexus, and I didn't even do anything from there. And how do I know that it worked? Well, let me tell you. In my relationships, I found myself setting more boundaries and asserting my power more. I also found myself having a more balanced solar plexus chakra, because I was having issues with anger, and I was really feeling a lot of anger come up. And when you have imbalances in your solar plexus, that anger can really manifest, and frustration. And what happened was those things started to subside. But it was a struggle for probably about the last 6 or 7 months. And I could really just feel I was on the cusp of something, but it was so, so hard. It felt like I was never going to get through it. I could just feel this energy of struggle and of shift. How many of you, I don't know how many of you felt that. I can't wait for the live Zoom meetings, because I really want to get that instantaneous answer from everybody nodding. I can see you in my mind. How many of you felt that way? I bet many of you have, that you feel like you're in this transition. I've had so many people feel like they're in a cocoon. I don't know how many of you felt like you were in a cocoon, and that it can feel lonely in there. And so a lot of them come to me, they're like, I feel so lonely, I don't know what to do because I feel disconnected. And then more often than not, I'll get like a message from their guides or from their higher self, or even I see it with my clairvoyance that they're like in a cocoon. I literally say like, I see you in a cocoon. That's the picture I'm seeing in my mind. And so I don't know how many of you are feeling like you're in a cocoon, but I want you to trust it. I want you to know that it's okay to set boundaries and to be apart from certain people's energies, even people who you've been close to in the past. Some people get worried because they're like, oh, I don't know if I should separate myself because I feel like I'm a light worker. And if I'm not around people, how can I share my light? And the answer I keep getting over and over, and this is including for my own self, is we're definitely in a time of a more, it did happen obviously during COVID, right? We were going within, we were drawing within. But for many people on the planet, they're shifting from doing a physical work that's very obvious in the 3D. So like your typical physical career, let me give that as an example. Like say you are a nurse, right? So for 20 years you were a nurse. I'm seeing a lot of people shifting into, I want to say like spiritual centered or heart centered. They're not even careers, but I will just say jobs or duties or responsibilities or lifestyles. And if that's you, I want to tell you, you're not alone. There are a lot of people going through that shift right now. It's a little bit strange. Every time I have people come to me and I do a really strong activation, or we really have some big shifting going on, I give them the same message. It's going to feel very strange for a while. It could be days, weeks. You're going to feel like something's off. And that is because you are so accustomed to the other kind of energy and to holding space for that other kind of energy, that being in this new energy is going to feel weird to you. But I want to tell you ahead of time to expect it. It's just there and it's okay. So I kind of feel like maybe that's what I want to tell everybody here too, is just know that if you're feeling like something's a little bit off, it could really be that something's on because you're being activated, and your physical body takes time to catch up to what's happening energetically. And therefore, there's a little bit of a delay and maybe a little bit of a disconnect when shifts happen, to where you feel odd or you maybe don't feel at ease. But again, it's okay. Everything is as it should be. Say that to yourself many times a day, especially when you're consuming social media, things in the news that are fear-based. Everything is playing out as it should be on this planet. And you choose the timeline that you want to be in. Empower yourself to do that. So again, some of the themes that I've picked out for this particular episode are the timeline loops. I want to hear from you about whether or not you've experienced those. It's almost like a Groundhog's Day thing. It really is, and it has been for me. It's a glitch type of a feeling. Secondly, have you guys noticed anything about your solar plexus? Have you noticed like feeling more empowered? Another one, I want to know if you have felt like you're in a cocoon, or if it's time for you to kind of set yourself apart from a lot of people. If you feel like you haven't been drawn to connect with friends that you used to connect with, people that are close to you that you no longer feel like you want to hang out with, I guess you could say. And then lastly, I just want you to let me know if you've had any experience with the questioning, right? Have you ever stepped out and just started asking questions and started channeling answers? if any of you have experienced those things, that's what this series is for. It's for you to communicate with all of us so we can all share together in this amazing, amazing time, and we can feel like we're not alone. So until next time, I just want to let you know that the divinity within me honors the divinity within you. Namaste.